What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. This is Brandon.
Stefan.
Welcome back to Crisis on Infinite Rants, your 3 o'clock Wednesday show at the PCP Army Bad Batch every Whiplash Wednesday station, everybody. Hope you guys got your amazing new comic books. We're super excited to hear what you guys picked up. Today on the channel, we are going to be talking about comic book deaths that work. So if you're catching this on the replay, if this interests you guys, I recommend hitting the subscribe button, liking this video. But yeah, comic book deaths. This is something that doesn't work in comic books because a lot of times we don't like seeing our favorite characters dead. For example, Superman, right? Had a very memorable death, came back like about 10, 15 years later. I don't know exactly the year numbering, but it was like a good decade, right? Or like a good amount of years. And then he came back and his death was kind of tainted, right? Because now we just look at it as a Superman story, not really the death of Superman, right? Because nothing really changed. Sometimes we have deaths in comics that are very rare, but they influence some of our main characters, right? So today we're going to be going over some of the deaths that worked, maybe some that didn't, and maybe some that we hope to see, right? Because I know Reed Richards is supposed to die in the Fantastic Four ongoing right now.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah, or like Wolverine who died, or like the Inhumans that died, right? Didn't mean shit. Because they're back now. Cyclops died. Don't mean shit. But, Steph, how are you doing today, brother?
Good. Can't complain, my man. I'm here, feeling good.
Happy to be here.
Oh yeah,
100%, man.
Absolutely.
So let's jump right into it. So when we think of comic book deaths, the first thing that like for me comes to mind is what was centered around the origin story of Bruce Wayne, right? So I'm gonna go with the first one is gonna be Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne dying in the alley, right, getting shot. We've seen this influence. It's almost like even if you just heard of Batman, you know this origin story, right? This was the death that really shaped his future. This is why he is Batman, right? To fight the darkness that took his parents away, right? Keep going. And we saw that whole mythology in Three Jokers lately. We've seen it in the movies, the Batman. Every Batman comic book worth its name at some point as an Elseworld story recaptures his origin to a degree. Yeah. So it's really, really impactful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it's the driving force behind Batman, essentially. Right. That's what makes him do what he does. He's always he was scarred so badly by that traumatic event. Like he wants to stop any sort of crime because he doesn't want that to happen to someone else. He doesn't want essentially some child to become like him. Some orphan. So yeah, I agree with that. His parents, super impactful.
Right. You had this rich kid, right? He had the perfect family going. He had a butler. He had a mom and dad who loved him very much. And then all of a sudden, right, they're coming out of a movie theater. It gets taken away from him. So you can imagine what would this kid's life look like with the Waynes if they were still alive, right? We've seen some iterations and some Elseworld stories, but like I like to think, he would have had a very normal life until the bridges collapse. Would the bridges even collapse, right, if it wasn't for Batman, right?
Now, I don't think Batman would exist, to be honest, without Bruce Wayne wouldn't be Batman if his parents were to live.
Right?
They were a crucial factor in making him Batman. So
100%, man. What's a death you want to talk about for us today?
Ooh, this might be an easy one, but let's go with Gwen Stacy.
I
think not that Peter Parker didn't take Spider-Man seriously up until that point, being Spider-Man, but that made him hit things just a little bit harder. Like that was a growing point for him, like a growing pain almost. And affected him for a long time.
Right. When I think of the death of Gwen Stacy, obviously this is like the biggest story, one of the biggest Bronze Age stories that we have to read, right? To reread that still holds up to today's status. Yeah. I definitely agree with what you said. Spider-Man definitely took his job more seriously, right? Because he was always like very quippy, was really reckless. If you go back to any of the Silver Age issues or pre-issue like 127, 128, right? That was the issues that she died, right? you can see that like he was really reckless, right? He was almost too gimmicky to the point where just kept breeding villains after Gwen, right? That kind of taught him, Gwen and Uncle Ben kind of really taught him that real like responsibility, right? Ben was more of a role model for him. It's Peter Parker, but this is more like, this is your first big death with Spider-Man as like a public figure. When he's Peter Parker losing his uncle, like, yeah, that sucks, but you're not in front of the light of day, right? Cop's daughter passes away, right? Right, everyone knows who Gwen Stacy is, right? And his relationship with that even affected his relationship with MJ early on, right? Moving past. So I definitely agree with you. That is a death that is not highlighted enough in comics. I would say that's one of the more underrated deaths simply for what it did to Peter, right? I am going to talk about, you know what? Let's talk about Bucky Barnes. Obviously, he came back, right? But early on, as he passed away, he didn't come back until like 2000. When was Captain? 2005. He didn't come back till 2005. But for years, right, this was Captain America's best friend, got killed in battle, right? And that was his push to finish the war, right? That almost impacted him more so as a leader to rise above everything. We saw this a lot in the Winter Soldier, not in the Winter Soldier movie, in the first Avenger movie, where when he lost Bucky, he was almost never the same. Like, he wanted to run back and quit, but then he kept going, he kept persevering. That was a big moment in Cap's history.
Yeah, I agree. That I also kind of set like a mandate at Marvel, for like no sidekicks. If you notice, like,
right.
Batman has DC's, they're big with legacy sidekick characters. Batman's got Robin, Green Arrow's got Arsenal, Red Arrow, whatever you want to call them. Flash, Kid Flash, etc. But Marvel, the only person to ever really have had like a sidekick, I guess, in that aspect was Cap with Bucky. And like the loss of that kind of, I don't know if it was like within story reason, but it definitely set a precedent in Marvel for like, no sidekicks. And yeah, I agree with everything you said about it changing Cap.
Right. I mean, we've seen other iterations of Bucky. Like, we've seen Nomad, even like Falcon to a degree was almost like his replacement. Is like kind of like that number 2 to Captain America, but their relationship was never the same. And even when he came back as the Winter Soldier, just like the shock value in that run that, okay, Bucky is back, we're bringing him back, and he's a bad guy, right? He's trying to kill Captain America, his best friend. When Cap got wind of it, he was like so in shock. It was almost like he didn't know what to do, that his best friend was over. So I think that one was definitely one for the record books, I would say. I feel like Marvel killed a lot of their characters early on, and as we get like, I was like doing my research for this show, I was like, we really don't get any modern comics that deal with death.
To an extent,
they're always come back. Nobody says dead. Nobody says dead.
Oh, staying dead. The only one I can think of that was kind of recent-ish, that lasted for quite a while, was Jean Grey. She died in like 2004 at the end of Morrison's run, and they kind of flirted with her, on the idea of the Phoenix and some miniseries and some stuff like, Phoenix End Song, or X-Men Phoenix Endgame.
Right.
Or End Song. Yeah, it was End Song. And yeah, but she didn't come back until what, like 2017? What was it? Matt Rosenberg's
Matt Rosenberg, yeah, took over in 2017. Yeah, that's when I first started collecting.
But he did that miniseries that had kind of brought her back, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I know he did the Multiple Man miniseries. I don't know. Did she come back in that one?
He did a few, to be honest. Yeah, I believe so. I want to pull it out. Right, it's like right here. But no, I think it was 2017 though. And what is that? Almost 15 years. What is that? 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay. She's the most recent person who stayed dead. You know.
I would say another big death that I think is very moving is Alfred right now. I think Alfred's death has really affected the DC universe more, not really more than I could have imagined, because obviously it's Alfred, he's dying, but
Yeah.
the effects that it had simply on the core of the Bat family, right? You look at I would say the two biggest core members closest to Bruce, obviously his son Damian, their relationship is never the same, and his relationship with Dick Grayson, right? After Alfred died, right, that Dick obviously moved out of Bloodhaven out of Gotham once he got his memories back following Joker War, went to Bloodhaven, right? Alfred was already dead. And then he got all of Alfred's what's the word? What am I looking for? Passings, right? He got all the money that Alfred left for him.
Oh, it was his inheritance.
His inheritance, thank you. He got his inheritance, right? Damian was there when Alfred was dead, when Alfred got killed by Bane in Batman 77, right?
Right. Yeah, he witnessed
so
it.
He feels responsible for what's going on, and Bruce was never able to mend that relationship to the point where Damian Wayne turned in his mantle and started soul searching. That's what we've been doing in the Robin book, right? In the Shadow War crossover that's going on right now, Bruce had like this big line saying, like, if I was there, Alfred would not have died, right? And that's just like Damian's just like, yeah, no, fuck you, I'm done, right? So that, even though it's so recent, we're already seeing the effects. And I don't want to say I hope Alfred stays dead, but I think it'll be better for Damian that he does.
I agree with you. I wouldn't. So I'll put it like this: I would never mind if they brought Alfred back, but I think there's a lot of story potential for them to operate without Alfred right now.
Right.
You know, like, and I agree that Alfred's kind of like everyone's uncle, or in the DC universe, like in the superhero realm, like everyone loves Alfred. Like they've all had a moment with Alfred, so his death is super impactful. That's definitely one I agree with. I agree with all of them, but yeah.
Right. I mean, like, it's kind of hard to talk about because, like, no one wants to see Alfred dead because we all love him. It's comic book readers. We've always seen Alfred being the one to always pull someone to the side, give them the encouraging words, let them go forward. But it's almost like if you take that away, we take Alfred for granted so many times, right? Yeah. It's like that one friend that is like you always, let's say, never give them their props, right? They're gone, and all of a sudden that's the thing you miss the most, right? It changes you. For somebody like Damian, right, who doesn't always listen, who has been prone to not listening to those words of encouragement and always giving sass to everyone around him, he misses that the most, right?
And even, I feel like to an extent, like Alfred's the only person who ever really knew Bruce, So Bruce is the only person, or Alfred's the only person who ever felt like comfortable enough to almost, he's always kind of Batman, but to go between the two of, he was vulnerable around Alfred, and he could feel like, he could talk about whatever.
He let his guard down.
Exactly.
Right.
And Batman, it was almost like his therapist, and he doesn't have that. Damian as well. That was, like you've already stated, but that I think he's impacted them both just as hard,
Right.
Because he was that father figure to each of them.
Right. And I think that was like a stepping stone for Damian to not only endure what's been going on, but to mature as well, right? Because even though he's not Robin, him going out on his own, he's already doing all the due diligence that he needs to do as Robin, right? He's creating his own path following this death. He's not really tied, right? He was never close to Bruce. Never close to Bruce.
Yeah.
Right? Because even when he started warming up to him, Bruce died. Dick Grayson took over as Batman in the Morrison run.
Yeah.
And then...
So Dick did a lot of that heavy lifting when it came to Damian growing up,
Right. And then Damian died in Batman and Robin. But the concrete thing, the one thing that stayed true was Alfred was always there.
Yeah. He's always been the Rock, you know?
Right. So you take that rock away, and what does that lead you, right? I think Damian has to figure. I think Damian is going to be that rock. I think eventually, right? Give it 20 years. This little saucy kid that's snappy at everyone has the most empathy. I'm going to say this right now. You guys can say that I'm wrong in the comments
I
all you want, but
I don't want to say you're wrong because I love Damian. He's like sometimes him and the best Robin kind of go butt heads with who I think is the best Robin sometimes. By best Robin I mean Tim Drake. But
Dick Grayson, you mean?
that's the beside the point. But uh I won't I won't debate that. But I don't really see it, but I wouldn't be mad if that were the case. Uh I can see Tim, honestly, even though he's the best Robin. I might seem biased for saying this. I think that Tim, is kind of like the one who's able to talk to or not Tim, definitely Dick. Dick can
Yeah,
talk to
I think
anybody.
once Damian grows up a little bit more, right? And let's assume, right? This is
Yeah.
us going off the assumption that DC's going to keep Alfred dead. I don't think they're going to do it, but we're going off the assumption that this guy is gone, right? This guy's past his prime. He's lived his life. R.I.P. Alfred. We love you. But I think that Damian is going to be groomed, right? To be that most mature person in the Bat family. Look at what he's endured,
Yeah.
right? Ever since he came to Gotham, even before that. I really think that, like, eventually, like, not right now, right? Not right now, but
No, yeah, no, yeah. I can
give
see
it a
that though.
give
I
it
mean,
10,
I
20
couldn't
years,
see it,
man.
but I wouldn't be mad at it. Yeah,
Right.
I'm all for it.
Just don't give him the Franklin Richards treatment. Like, he needs to keep going. Like, don't halt his puberty right now.
Or they can age him up too quickly, like Jonathan Kent.
Yeah, if we're talking about comic deaths, how about that character? But anyway, another one that was pretty
Who
dope.
did we do you have the who I can't really remember who we were discussing earlier.
I was
You
gonna
know,
go one off that I just thought of. Gene D. Wolfe. That was the biggest heartbreak in Spectacular Spider-Man. Yo, 107, issue 107 by Peter David. I cannot preach this enough. Police Captain Gene DeWolf murdered by the Sin Eater in Spectacular Spider-Man 1985. I love this book. And this was such a sad death. Because
I
she
don't
was really
know.
close to Peter. She was like Peter's friend in the police force, right?
Right.
NYPD, right? Because no one really liked Peter. No one really liked Spider-Man at this time, right? And then, like, obviously, like, Craven's Last Hunt came like 2 years later, and then no one really liked Peter after that shit,
Yeah.
right?
That
Like
was
Blue Symbiote
Hunter White.
Peter, or not Blue Symbiote, Black Symbiote Peter. Nobody liked. I really just said blue. Wow, I've not had enough coffee.
I
But
was gonna steal that.
this was like Spider-Man's version of Commissioner Gordon. She was like brutally slain by the Sin Eater, right? And it was like the way that this death was captured in comics. I was like, it was tippy-toeing around the comic code of authorities for Marvel at the time, right? This death to me was really moving because it's like Peter Parker is such a reckless character. He is probably the most reckless character because he's always trying to juggle so many things. That's why I had hope for the nonstop Spider-Man book. That I'm so sorry, but that should not have ever seen print. But I think Jean DeWolf was like not a big character at all, but her death influencing Peter in the 80s when he's now an adult, right? He's moved past Gwen. He's trying to settle down with MJ. Just got back from Secret Wars, right? And now like one of his only friends is dead, like got slain, like because of him, right? Because she was helping him. And it's like, is he now he was more alone than ever in the field, right? If he's not teaming up with another superhero friend, he's like gonna be on his own now, right? Because he does not have that trust anymore, right? Because everyone who gets close to him, Gwen Stacy, Jean DeWolf, passes away. Captain Gwen Stacy, or Captain, what's his name? John Stacy, right? Gwen's father, John, says him.
I don't know his first name. I know Captain Stacy.
Captain Stacy died. I said Captain Gwen Stacy. I'm an idiot. Captain Stacy. Wow, I cannot talk today. But with Peter, it's kind of crazy seeing that. Another one we talked about was Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Peter Parker.
Yes. Yes. I think that's what I was trying to think of. But yeah, with his death led to Miles, and that's it didn't last that long though, sadly, the death of Ultimate Peter Parker. But it was super impactful in the aspect to the character that it was the catalyst for.
Right. What was really cool about that death, or really impactful, like why it works, we had 160 issues of this kid that we grew up with, right? We saw this guy mature. We've seen him do it all, right?
Yeah.
We've seen him grow. We've seen him make mistakes. We've seen him succeed. We've seen this guy fail. We've seen him get with Catwoman too. Like I was really rooting for him to make it out. Like this man kissed Catwoman and she puked all over him. I mean, come on. Like that's a nice evening if
Was
you
this
ask
when
me.
you crossed over to the DC universe?
Yeah, right.
You keep saying Catwoman, but it's
Oh, my bad. Black Cat.
it's not a big deal. I'm just
Black Cat. Wow. Come on, Brandon.
Sorry. I'm just being a stickler. But
Black
no,
Cat.
yeah.
Y'all knew what I meant though.
He
Black
was,
Cat. Wow.
He's quite the Kitty Pryde. Gwen Stacy. Wow, that was.
He was with MJ for a hot minute too. Black Cat.
Yeah,
He was with
MJ. Yeah, definitely MJ. Black Cat. Like you said, Black Cat.
I don't think he was with anyone else other than Kitty and that, and then MJ, and then Black Cat. I think he was one with 4 girls.
But that's quite the roster. So.
Yeah, more women than I've ever pulled. No, I'm kidding. But we've seen this guy like just grow up. We've just fallen in love with this series, right? And then he sacrifices himself for the sake of New York, and that was just crazy, right? Because the Ultimate Universe, almost like a lesser Black Label. It's like if Black Label's like rated M, this is like rated T for teen, right?
Yeah. It's a little bit more edgy, more mature, more realistic in a lot of aspects.
Right. And I think like the ending of that was supposed to say like, yeah, this is actually gonna freaking happen to some of her characters.
Yeah.
It's just like we can end this book because we already have an ongoing Peter Parker book going on, like in the main 616. You're not missing it. And then you got another
Spider-Man. It was
Spiderman.
better than the main 616 Peter Parker at the time. But
well, Ultimate was, but
yeah, yeah.
It was almost like wow, like sometimes like in comics, like it's almost like in the main 616, the main universe, it's like taken for granted almost, right? That okay, the heroes are gonna make it out every single time, right? Every single time. It's like in the Ultimate Universe, and maybe not all the time they're gonna make it out, right? I mean, I was just reading Ultimate War, and freaking Iron Man got sauced by Colossus.
I want to say it was Robert Kirkman that started bringing people back from the dead, but but I was gonna say I don't want to ruin anything, but yeah, people for the most part stayed dead in the Ultimate Universe until Robert Kirkman came.
Yeah, no wonder he's doing Image Comics now.
It's a better fit.
It is. Yeah, we don't want to talk about Marvel Zombies. It was weird because I was just reading the Ultimate Fantastic Four, the introduction of Marvel Zombies, right? Because it's part of the run, and I was like, wow, this is solid. Why did I absolutely hate Marvel Zombies?
See, maybe it was overhyped for me. I know we were talking about this the other day, but I love Marvel Zombies just because I'm a big zombie fan to begin with. Like I liked zombies before the whole zombie boom, like The Walking Dead. Like I remember seeing Night of the Living Dead as a little kid. I just always thought the idea of zombies was cool. So when it came out, it was like there's like this buzz, or it was on like zombies were on like a buzz because it was like 28 days later. It came out like 2003. Then Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead came out 2004. And so when this came out into like 2005, I was like, oh hell yeah, comic books, Marvel superheroes, zombies. I'm sold. And I had kept hearing about Robert Kirkman at the time. So I was like, let me give this a go. So I mean, maybe I'm biased, but it's not amazing.
I gotta reread it. I really need to reread it because this is like I'm missing something. Fun. It's like I just need to confirm. I'm like, yeah, you didn't because like I was excited for it too because I was like, I love Sean Phillips, right? I love Robert Kirkman. Like I literally just read Invincible before I read like Marvel Zombies, right? So I was like,
So
I
that's
think
different.
that could have been it because it like was
Yeah,
nowhere near invincible. So I was just like, you know what? Maybe it's
and
just
you
me.
can. That was just something I think Kirkman was having fun with because at the time you got to remember this came out fall of 2005,
Right.
maybe like November, October. So he's not that deep into his Walking Dead nor his Invincible run at the time. So, he's kind of like, I'm kind of like the zombie guy right now. I got the hit zombie comic line. Why don't I, combine that with, since I'm working at Marvel, let me get my superhero writing
Mhm.
skills. It was a natural fit at the time, like the synergy of it, the timing. But it's not an amazing story, but it's just fun. It's fun. If you love zombies, like I said, it's like, I think it's more of a niche book, and the fact that they were able to make something such a crazy concept work. Look at
Right.
Deceased. Even though Deceased is probably a stronger story, a better story, but I love both those books for
Right.
the fact there's superheroes and zombies combined.
Right. And it was funny because like DC's was like almost like answering all the things that Marvel Zombies didn't, like the sense of the world just was completely lost in Marvel's
Did
from my memory right now. I almost said remembery. This is
did
how you
you
know I cannot talk today.
did you read Marvel Zombies 2 or any of
No,
those?
I read like
You
two
should have.
pages of it. I was like, nope.
I mean, they kind of expanded the world a little bit, but no, I agree with you. There was way more world building in Deceased. But oh, I was just thinking of Blackest Night, zombies and superheroes.
Oh yes, that's something we got to
Mm,
do for archives. That's something we got to do.
that would be a
Um,
fun one, yeah.
Another
Yeah.
death I would like to touch on. Speaking of like
It's off
things
topic.
coming back from the dead, right? Let's go with Jason Todd. I think this death was so dope. This was one of the coolest deaths ever because if you look at what happened, right? You have this little teenager trying to prove himself to Batman, goes out of his way to overstep his own balance, right?
Yeah.
Not listen to Batman, right? Who's trying to kind of pace him out for how much exposure he gets to big time villains or like things that are like too big for his level, stuff that he just doesn't understand because he's so young, right? He doesn't see the world like an adult does who's been in the game like that. So for him to go and get captured and beaten by a crowbar and die right in Batman's hands, that is crazy. And the fact that we are still dealing with this death today in comics is even more insane because ever since he became Red Hood, nothing's happened. If you are a Red
I
Hood
would agree
fan,
with
tell me right now what has happened since he became Red Hood. What has he done?
I mean, maybe they're still trying to figure out what to do with him, but I enjoy the character. I
I
like
like
what
the
he
character.
represents.
I hate what writers don't do with him.
I agree.
He's still now that he's Red Hood and he is separated from Batman, he kills people just to prove to Batman that he can. Right? Very petty that way. And it's like we've seen Dick Grayson move on to bigger and better things. We've seen Tim Drake, we've seen Stephanie, we've seen all of the other Bat family members, like at least have some character development, except for Jason, right? And I get that he is like the problem child, right? He's always acting out of impulse or out of anger, but it's also like, when are we gonna move past this relationship with him and Batman? Three Jokers tried to tingle with that, but it was like, we're not gonna address it. Batman's gonna roll up the window because he don't want to talk about it, even though he was left scarred by his um conflict with the Joker, right? And so was
No, yeah,
Batgirl. But Batgirl and Batman healed together from that, and her father, Commissioner Gordon. Jason never did. So it's like I'm not we're not gonna get that heart to heart. We're not gonna get that because DC has other endeavors. They don't really care about Jason Todd. But I would like this character to move on and at least try to make a name for himself.
I feel like he has with the Red Hood. Um, I don't mind I don't know. I don't mind the character. I have this disdain for him like you do, but I do agree that I think that his death was impactful, and it changed Bruce in a lot of ways, how he operated. Made him more paranoid, to the point where he wanted to control everything. So, he was like, no more deaths on my watch. Made him closed off for a number of years. And maybe because that's why they haven't gotten that closure between him and Bruce, is because Bruce is still kind of like, it's like an awkward, like he feels guilty, like you died on my watch, like I don't know, he doesn't know how to address that, like what do like sorry, my bad, like how do you make up for that, like so you got caught in the crossfire essentially because he recruited some kid who wasn't ready for his war on crime. But it's complicated. But yeah, I get what you mean. They don't really have anything they want to do with Red Hood right now, so it's kind of in like a stagnant area.
Right. There was also a cool one. I just thought of this one too. Sue Dimby.
You talking about Elongated Man's Dimby?
Mm-hmm. Identity Crisis?
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely changed a lot in DC for that. Yeah.
I think like what was the way she died and the fact that like it was almost pinned against someone in the Justice League made it more impactful because no one cares about Sue Dimby. I could barely care about Elongated Man, right? Or what's elongated
People
about
like
this man. Wait, that sounded so wrong. But anyway.
People like the Divneys, fam.
I like him. It's just he's not someone that I would miss if he died. I mean, he's basically dead. When was the last time you've seen him in DC Comics?
I mean, Plastic Man is dope as hell, and he was dead for a long time, same as Wally West. So
yeah, Barry Allen, but Barry Allen's not that dope. But
no, he's not. I agree with that. I'd like Jeff Johns, but I'm not a big fan of the character. Like I like the stories he tells with the characters, but like Flash and Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, Barry, like my least favorite in those mantles.
Right. It's funny because I like Hal Jordan. I'm a bigger Kyle fan, but I loved his Hal Jordan run. I did not like Jeff Johns' Wally West because he's almost writing it for the return of Barry, but like a precursor. Like he's like, yeah, I knew like 4 years when I started writing this book, I was gonna build up to Barry's resurrection. I was like, okay, fine, but I liked his Hawkman. That's solid.
Yeah, from what I've read.
Other than that, there's not
earlier stuff is solid.
A whole lot of deaths that I can think of. It's a very rare sighting in comics that we have a death that actually lasts longer than 10 years.
This is true.
I mean, you have Supergirl, but she wasn't really a big character at the time, so it's like I'm not gonna count her. Barry Allen doesn't really matter because now he's back and
he was dead for a while though.
Barry, he was dead for a hot minute, right? And he died because his character wasn't selling, and they wanted to introduce a new Flash to raise numbers.
He was dead for 20 plus years.
Right.
But I think it was all a plan. I don't want to say Wally wasn't selling, but yeah, I mean, stuff got weird in the early 2000s after like Infinite Crisis. Bart was Flash, and then he wasn't because he died, and Wally came back, but then Bart wasn't dead. It was weird. Yeah.
Right.
And then Barry came.
Right. Is there any more that you were thinking of?
You did say Omniman.
Yes. Earlier. At the end of Invincible. Oh wait, my bad. Spoilers for everyone who has not read Invincible. I hope you can just rewind to 10 seconds of your life back. But anyway, yeah, that death was kind of dope because we've seen this guy go back and forth for so many times. Like good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, right? When he eventually died, I thought that was like more of that was like Mark, who's almost like going to take his place, like the leader of his family of the Viltrumites. So I was like, that's dope. And it was like this character was almost groomed to die in such a way that it was like wow, I actually cared for this complete jackass that died, and I really dug that. If we're gonna talk about, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I was agreeing.
If we're gonna talk about another death, you read Saga, right?
Yes, for the most part.
Marco,
Yes.
he's dead, but I think he's coming. I think he's not dead, right? That's my speculation with the book. It hasn't been confirmed, right? That he's pronounced dead. Like we've seen his corpse, but that could be anyone's corpse. Like we saw just his head, right, with the horns. I was like, that could be anyone.
Yeah.
But I'm not really feeling the whole Mark is dead. I'm feeling like he's alive, and I feel like they referenced someone who's like, oh yeah, the heartless. Like I ran into someone who looked like you. He was heartless, right? And I was like, funny, because that's something that he got stabbed like right in the heart. So I was like, okay. But other than that, I can't really think of any other deaths that really worked. Like I will say Batman's death worked, right? Because it allowed Dick Grayson, Damian to mature, but they were more so like at the time, not really anything that we can look back on as impactful.
I'm not gonna say he was dead.
I'm sorry?
I was gonna say, would we say he was dead? Would that count? I mean, since he was like traveling through time.
Dead.
Dead, yeah, I like that.
He was like
dead. Quotations, yeah.
Right. But it's funny because like I would like to see a world where Bruce Wayne is kind of dead, right? For a long term, for a long time.
I would agree. That would definitely elevate the other Bat family to a whole nother level, you know.
I think like I don't know. I think that would allow Tim and Dick to almost be like the dynamic duo of the family, right? Leading everyone else. I think that would be a good way to like culminate everyone, get like another like Gotham Central thing, or even like a Bat Family book that's actually put effort into. I'm talking to you, Tim Seeley, but no, like I'm sorry. I tried rereading that book recently to think that if I was crazy, and I'm not. It's that bad. I was like, oh no.
You do like Empire.
I do like Empire. I do like Empire. But anyway, you guys, coming up on the channel on Friday, we're going to be interviewing Mark Waid. We also have weekly wrap up. Oh yeah, we're going to be interviewing Mark Waid. You ready, Steph?
I could always be ready, and I still want to be ready at the same time.
I feel ready. I feel pretty ready, as ready as I can be. And then we have Archive should be dropping Thursday, right? So we got Ultimate X-Men coming out on Thursday, so led by this guy right over here. And then I think following the Mark Waid interview, the next Friday we're gonna keep going with weekly wrap up. We're gonna try to switch around stuff with the channel because I am starting a new job, so I'm gonna try to work on like dates to release everything. Still working on that, so just stay tuned on Instagram. Both our links are in the description below, and you guys can get the latest announcements from Comics Kings. And then Steph, what's coming up with you, man? Anything else you got going on?
You know, I'm just like a tumbleweed in the winds. I might be here, I might be there, but no, I'll usually on Dylan's horror show every Saturday night, you know, reviewing some horror classic. It's always a fun time. Yeah, and you know, don't worry, we got you covered.
Yes, we got you covered. All right, you guys, have a great Wednesday. Take care, everybody. Station.